This week in comic books over in the land of DC, we get Ghostmaker. Who's Ghostmaker? Well, apparently we're just going to redcon some villain in Batman and make it sound like he's been around forever. Over in the land of Marvel, we have Knull. He is not coming, he is here, and oh my lord, what a great comic book that it was in. Also in the land of Independence, we got Crossover, and it makes me feel funny in a good way. Let's talk about it. Hey, what's going on, you wonderful weirdos? I'm Pocan Joe, and as always, you're super cool for swinging by. If this is your first time here, basically what I do is I'm a middle-aged man. I read a bunch of comic books, take a bunch of notes, try to get little nuggets of goodness out of there to pass on to you. So maybe you'll see a comic book that you just passed up on, or maybe you didn't even get a chance to read. I'm happy to review it for you. Definitely, opinions are welcomed here. If you have a comment about a comic book you read, definitely comment down below. Love to hear your views on things. I do my best to try to answer everybody if there's any questions or anything like that. So let's get our awkward sip of coffee out of the way because...
Is that tradecraft?
Gotta start with a little cringe. All right, let's jump into the land of DC. What happened to DC in Batman number 102? We get retconned a arch nemesis of Bruce Wayne. I say Bruce Wayne at first because that's when these two individuals actually met. His super anti-villain hero name is Ghostmaker. Apparently him and Bruce Wayne have known each other for quite some time. They used to compete whenever they would find instructors of experts. Like there was this one scene where they were meeting up with this guy in Ireland because he was like the best knife fighter of all time. And they fought over who would be his student.
I mean, that doesn't even make sense.
I don't like the backstory. I think it's kind of cheesy and it's weird and it doesn't make any sense to me. What I do like is I like this Ghostmaker character. I like the fact that he thinks Gotham is just filthy and dirty. And let's be honest, Batman's not doing his job. And since he lost billions of dollars, apparently, Ghostmaker's going to step in. Ghostmaker's going to make his first announcement of all of this by having kind of sort of a problem with Clown Hunter, somebody who Batman has been protecting, trying to convince him to go down the right path. Well, I don't think Ghostmaker's doing that, and he's definitely living up to his name in this. So that much I do like. But, unfortunately, we're going to get more backstory on this character, which is just two rich guys arguing about, I'm with the better teacher. All right. Next, Dead Planet. Dead Planet was interesting this week in the fact that Trigon wants to arise from hell. You know Trigon.
Ex-Mossad.
Raven's dad? If not, don't worry. It's a giant demon. Don't get hung up on it. He wants to show up and just burn everything. Why? Because you're either dead or you're alive. It doesn't really matter at this point. He's always had a problem with Earth anyway, if you've seen the show or anything else. He just wants to burn it all to the ground. And Constantine kind of sort of has a plan, but he kind of knows he needs a MacGuffin. What's a MacGuffin? A device of some sort. He needs this magical spear of destiny and a few other things too. Unfortunately, he has to either off or trick people that are actually friends of his and double cross them in some way, shape, or form for the greater good. Definitely a story of agency, and it is a typical John Constantine story. The unusual thing is Swamp Thing's kind of on board, and they're like buddies on this plan. Interesting. Let's see here. Moving in. Oh, Justice League number 56. This is all part of that Doom Metal run. Basically, if you haven't been reading this, you haven't really been missing much. It's not very pertinent to the whole death metal story as it goes. It's just like the secondary story thing where Teen Titans plus 3. Yeah, it's basically Cyborg, Starfire, Nightwing, who doesn't know if he's Nightwing, doesn't want to be, whatever his personal issue is, Lex Luthor, Hulk Girl, and now Martian Manhunter are trying to free the League of Doom, the Legion of Doom. I don't know why I messed that up. It's one of my favorite ones.
Something like that.
The Legion of Doom from Perpetual's Tower, because they're kind of powering it, right? So they got to get past this Omega Knight deal, and comic book shenanigans happen where they couldn't beat him, and then they beat him really easy. I thought that was just poorly done. After it was said and done, they did, by blowing everything up. They blew everything up. All the superheroes. Nightwing's still alive, of course, because you just can't seem to keep that guy down. Oh. And they also freed the Legion of Doom characters, who are now upon Nightwing, like, look what we got here, haha, we're villains. And I was just like, I just don't care anymore. Like, I read through this and I was just like, ugh. This is so far away from the death metal story that I can't even really picture the two together. Detective Chimp is in it and he's riding around on an invisible horse. Why is the horse invisible? Because words. I don't know. It's just, they needed a plot device. This was thrown together pretty quickly. All right, next from DC, and I thought this was funny. I went ahead and I've been picking up this Hellblazer Fall or Rise. This is actually pretty good Constantine story. It's very kind of, the artwork's very similar to that of something you would see in The Boys or something along those lines. It's funny, it's witty. The mystery in it's not really a mystery, it's just more of a plot. This was a hilarious scene, which just turned out the devil's just screwing with John Constantine.
Makes sense.
Not in a literal sense, but just screwing with his head. All in all, it's good. It's good artwork. I love the dialogue in it. It's very witty at best, and it's what you expect out of a John Constantine story. Basically, John Constantine's battling a demon in this one who's taken the form of a childhood friend of his, and the thing feeds off despair, and it's got an escape from hell, and obviously it's starting to get more and more powerful as it produces despair, and even Satan himself is having trouble beating this thing. A lot of egos in play here, a lot of holier than thou action stuff going in here that kind of gets turned on its head, and I think it would be great for any cynic. If you consider yourself a cynic, you would probably very much love this story. Let's rush right into Marvel. Marvel came out with some really good stuff this week. Yeah, we're going to talk about U.S. Agent. So this is weird. U.S. Agent this was a good story. I don't know what we're trying to say in this. Apparently we have this fascination with making everybody in West Virginia a redneck and sound unintelligent. We also like to do that with him. As a matter of fact, we like doing that with all the white characters in this story.
I'm getting a lot of pressure.
Pressure? What kind of pressure?
Yeah. And then there's like this Chinese delivery guy who knows Kung Fu too. It's still up in the air if this person's actually an agent or an actual delivery guy. We don't know yet. But basically, all in all, we have a bunch of West Virginianers that blew up what was known as a shield front, and somebody who's a little bitter and doesn't like U.S. Agent kind of called him into the mission. So now he's going to go there to figure out what's going on and try to battle this. And of course, it looks like he's going to be battling some of his own demons as well. I like it for what it is. It was funny, it was witty, and then when I started noticing very cut skew into it, I was like, I don't know. But there's still funny banter and witty. It's just like John Constantine in here. There's a lot of back and forth. This is a buddy cop story with the Chinese delivery guy and U.S. agent both going back and forth at each other. And that's how I'm going to read it, and I'll probably pick up issue 2. Moving on. Oh, my Lord. Web of Venom. Empire's End. So Empire was a complete disaster of a story, right? It's like salad people and alien empires being joined together, and the Avengers getting thrown into the middle of it, and then like Gamma Flight got all mad, don't want to play games anymore, and I was just like, nobody cares. But then with the Scree and the Skrull and the Scree uniting the empires, they're getting signals out in space and distress signals. So they go to investigate it. And it turns into, remember Aliens, the movie? That's what this felt like. It had that general sci-fi kind of horror to it. And that's what made this really great. This impending doom that has no feeling, no emotion. It just wants to take you.
Remind you of anyone?
And that really sucked you into this. And the art really kind of played towards it too. A lot of darkness in it, and it was just great. And I mean, you just can't beat this. But come to find out, the distress signal came from a group of people who have been infected by symbiotes, by Knull's symbiotes to be specific, because he's jumping from planet to planet, taking them over. And Bubba, he has come, and he has shown up with a vengeance, and he's got symbiote dragons, which is kind of cool. So all in all, I absolutely pick of the week for me. I just want to show you one splash page that just kind of explains this whole story and just how awesome that is. Like, that's just, so great. It's a good story. A lot of absolutism in this too. Like it's got to go away. It's beautifully done. Another good story that I always wondered about. Remember, maybe if you're not as old as me, I don't know what that's supposed to be, but maybe you don't remember that at one point Thor was actually had an alter ego, right? It was Dr. Donald. And the cool thing about it, or Dr. Donald Blake. So he would hit and say Thor, and he would change into Thor, right? That was the whole deal. But it never really addressed in the older comics, where did he go, right? Like we knew Thor was out in Asgard, and that's how he, right? Never really explained it. And this one, it gave us this kind of an explanation of where he went, right? And apparently Odin made like this beautiful suburbanite hellscape. It's the only way to put it. It's like where Karen lives. The term Karen is where Karen lives, and everybody's ice cream in, and
oh, that's good. Oh, you are good.
Okay, and apparently the great part about this is that Dr. Blake at the time wouldn't know how much time he's actually spending there, right? Because it was like just an endless thing. Well, something happened, and the magic MacGuffin thing, like that didn't happen anymore. Now Blake knows how long he's there and how much of a hellscape he's actually in. Not a hellscape as in that literal one, but just being stuck doing the same walking, the same thing every day. And how this kind of played on his mind. And actually it made him kind of, it drove him mad. Like, not just mad like cuckoo, cuckoo, but more like, oh, everything must die. And he literally started killing everybody. And wants to know why he was abandoned there. And that's how he felt. So he kind of had this, like God abandoning people, right? Since Thor's a god, we can say that. Very impactful. And of course, Thor's getting tired of being a king, because everybody hates their job. Doesn't matter if you're a king or you dig ditches. At some point, you just don't like a day at work. And he just wanted a day off and bring the doctor back in. Had Loki kind of set up everything to where he could lie for him or whatever. And turns out that probably wasn't the best idea. I like the old Norse story in here too about the moon, the sun and its shadow, and one being the serpent and the other being. Don't want to spoil that for you. That's a beautiful 1 in 25 cover there, and that's exactly the insanity that we saw in here. Oh, it's so good. If the Knull story didn't come out, that would have been my pick of the week, like no doubt. All right, so we'll go ahead and talk about our Sword of X, or X of Swords.
Yeah, good news and bad news.
So you'll see the first one was X-Men. This is basically Apocalypse and his main squeeze, Genesis, talking in a garden, and we're just getting justification of why she's even in the story, really. We get a lot of backstory, what happened during the years that they weren't together, and how this kind of golden helm kind of gives her command over this other world, if you will, without getting into too many specifics. Not relevant to the storyline. You can, if you're watching this on a Wednesday and you pick up your comic books on a Thursday or Friday, and you're like, oh, that's probably going to be the key issue right there.
Like you read minds, bro.
It's it's actually kind of boring. It's very boring. A lot of narrative, very little dialogue, and what little bit of action in it. Trust me, you ain't missing anything. Moving on, however, to Marauders and for their X story. This one's interesting. Again, not a whole lot of action, but some really cool stuff did happen. I even got to break out my notes on this one. What happened in here? So the champions, right, both the X-Men and the others, the White Witch wants to have a dinner and have everybody at it, which, believe it or not, is not typically, historically, it's not unusual. Before Olympics and things like that, there was often feast and things like that would happen. Even nights before battles on the battlefield, there would be feast and stuff like that. So it's not too far-fetched that this kind of old school queen would kind of want to do this. So they're doing that. So the bad guys and the good guys, however you want to look at them, they meet each other. And right here on the cover shows the best part where Death and Storm kind of had this, I don't know how to, remember the Little Mermaid, the hermit crab thing doing the Kiss the Girl song? Just kiss the girl. Yeah, that whole thing kind of happened in here. Like even underwater in a clamshell, the whole 9 yards. It was...
What the hell were you doing?
Hilarious. But it was really cool watching your more warrior types, right? Your archetypes of warriors in this actually try to size up their counterparts in this, finding out where their strong sides are. So they were really doing more investigating in this. You saw more of this on the X-Men side than you did the other side. But regardless, it was cool. It was cool to kind of get this kind of understanding that they're not just going to eat. Also, Logan knows how to end all this. So he stabs the White Witch. Now, does it kill her? No, we'll find out in the next issue. I'm sure it didn't kill her. But we also see something interesting happen in the background. We see War kind of spike Logan's drink. So what is she dumping in there, and what's that going to do? I'm sure that's going to play a part here relatively quickly. Let's see here. That's all my Marvel. No, it's not. I forgot. I did get these two. So we got Wolverine, Black, White, and Blood. This is good. We've launched Wolverine several times now over the years, and each time it's just been we tried showing a kinder side to him. We tried showing a more ravenous side to him. We've tried everything. This book is on point. There are some really cool aspects of this. This is basically 3 storylines. We've seen that before too, especially in the Marvel Premiere stuff. 3 storylines that are kind of happening, and they are just great. And they're also doing this kind of, well, just like the title says. All the illustrations are that black, white, red that you typically see in a New War type story. It's really cool, and I really like it because we're actually dealing with Wolverine as most people would probably remember and recognize him as.
Dangerous, unstable.
We see some Weapon X stuff go on, some of his agency stuff with Nick Fury and, East Berlin type areas. And then we kind of get a mystery where he's kind of thrown into a mystery too. Those are 3, and they're both good. I look following this storyline up some more, so definitely we'll be picking up some more of that. Amazing Spider-Man wants to do another LR. Why? Because
That's what we're gonna go find out.
more money. This story's, but the problem, I guess I should say, the story is somewhat relevant, or at least I'm predicting it is. Sin Eater meets back up with his little cult that he's got going on, and he's decided to go full absolutist, religious absolutist, complete 100% dedication. Even though he has been abandoned by kindred, he still sees him as a god and feels that he's still being tested. I always like religious zealots that kind of go to that extreme. Even when absolute answers hit them in the face, they just look over it like, I'm being tested, or this isn't happening, or there's some bigger plan at play, I just don't understand it. I like those kind of stories because you can actually do a lot with those kind of characters, and I thought that was interesting. MJ shows back up into New York because she's apparently going to play family counselor to the Osborns. I don't know why. It doesn't seem very interesting to me. But other than that, we have the Spider-Verse that have Kindred changed, running havoc, and news reporters are running around. And that helps too because it kind of gives us a time frame. We were kind of dealing right there with the whole Moon Knight thing, and it kind of gave us that time reference there of about when all this stuff was happening. So it's pretty current in all of the stories. Other than that, Doctor Strange meets up with Black Cat. They have some, what I guess the writer thought was witty banter, but it just turned into just a way to be typical. It came off very typical.
Take a look at this.
Okay, Indies. So apparently the story's starting in here on issue 6 in The Boys Dear Becky. So way back in issue 1, we got Huey was delivered the diary of Billy the Butcher. And he's been reading it and taking excerpts out of it. And that's what we've been seeing in this book. And then kind of the after effects of him trying to hide this diary from his lovely soon-to-be bride. Now the bride has found it and wants to know what's up and comes up with a plan. You need to find out who sent this to you. That was our question back at issue 1. We've just been reading these other kind of funny storylines. Do they actually tie into this in any way? I don't know. Maybe one more? I think I said that 2 issues ago. It's just enough to keep you hanging on to find out what's going on.
Cooperate.
Now, mind-blowing book of the week. This is my pick of the week, number 2. I guess the best way to lead this off is to say that this isn't a comic book. This is commentary, and it's It's very skillfully done. This story, basically, what if superheroes were real, like all comic books, right? But this is no. What if the people from the actual comic books came into our reality? What would that look like? Well, apparently that happened in Colorado, right? And they're battling it out, and some sort of force field goes around Colorado, the entire state. And there's a comic book shop with somebody who works at it, and apparently a bunch of religious people have a problem with this. This has a lot of tones from the great comic book scourge in the U.S., where they were literally burning comic books because they were evil and Satanists and giving kids the bad ideas. A lot of that's being played in here. A lot of commentary on us as a society, us as comic book collectors as well as being commented in here.
But the point here, fellas, is I brought home the bacon.
This is a home run, no doubt. Kate smashed it out of the park. That even if you don't get the sort of undertone message in here, you still have a good comic book to read, if nothing else. Also, if you wear bifocals because you're getting old like me, you may want to change over to some just regular cheaters because they do the little dot thing in here, and that can kind of, I don't know about you and your bifocals, but I know it kind of jacked me up a little bit. I got a little headache from it. So, warning. I'll probably put that in the title. All right, guys. That's my haul for the week. What did you think about it? Hey, do you want to discuss comic books on Friday night at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time right here on the YouTubes? Well, come on over to Blaster's Stash It. Myself, Huey, and Spectacular Spider Grandpa. We're going to go through these books. You're going to get different takes on it. Sometimes we agree, sometimes we disagree. But more importantly, we have a live chat room where we want to know what you think about your reads this week. Maybe you read something we didn't. So definitely swing by if you can. Also, my Secret Evil Lair project, my next Evil Lair project for November. Planning has been done. Materials have been bought. I'm going to start filming that this week. If you haven't seen my last project, you can check that out over here in the video. Yeah, that was a market disruption one where we tried to make a Nordic gold pop. Came out pretty cool. That's up here on the wall, actually, right there. But yeah, my next project, also the Easter eggs for it. This project are in there as well. All right, guys, I got nothing else. Talk to y'all later. Have a good day.
I like you. I like you.